Trust and Estates Weekly. Sorry, last minute shift there. I had my music playing and I forgot to turn it off before I started the broadcast. It's Monday morning, 10 a.m. here on the West Coast, and California made the Wall Street Journal because of all the rain we've been getting, which is I don't want to say it's unseasonable. It's welcome from my perspective. Love the rain always. And you if it starts raining really hard, you'll be able to hear it in the background here, I think, a little bit. But in any event, glad to be here with you today and always. Our purpose is to talk about those things related to probate, estates, trusts, all of that from the estate planning perspective to administration and settlement, all of those issues for ourselves as individuals who need to go through this process, but also as professionals who help people with this whole situation. So it can be difficult, and it is the kind of thing where you're definitely going to want to get some expert advice. So and I hopefully you'll find good practitioners. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, but in any event, that's what we're here to do. So today, and I realize I didn't set this there. Okay, there it is. Good. So today I'm going to talk about something called a 529 plan. Now, if you're like me, you may not ever have heard of this for a long time. I learned about it because my daughter's grandmother, or grandfather, I think actually, set up a 529 plan for her a number of years ago. And very, very generous of them. It was part of when they were doing their estate plan. And it's a great tool to use in seeing to it that children or grandchildren are able to be educated. So I'm going to start the presentation here. Okay, so I call this presentation Preparing for College Expenses with a 529 Plan. Now, in some cases, a 529 plan can be used for non-college education, K through 12, okay? And as you're going to see, that varies from state to state. But in any event, I think it's reasonable to say its main focus is as a mechanism for funding a college education. So, okay, we got a little bit of a lag. Whenever it rains in California, I think the internet lags. So as is the case with everything we do on the Way to Wow shows, they're based on the 3 pillars of attainment. And those shows tend to focus on the finances realm of the pursuits pillar, but inevitably we get involved in relationships. In this case, family probably is the most closely tied to 529 plans. And sometimes we get into some self issues, identity, health, mindset, those sort of things. If you want to know more about the 3 pillars of attainment, please go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@thewaytowwow. And there's a whole show talking about the 3 pillars of attainment. Okay, so let's start out first of all by discussing what is a 529 plan. Okay, so first of all, it's a state-sponsored plan, not a federal government plan. Okay, so as such, the rules vary from between California, Nevada, Arkansas, Maine. Each state has its own little twists on it. Okay, I'm going to show you in a few minutes a map that gives you an idea of some of the differences state by state. Okay, and it was designed to encourage people to save money for what are called qualified educational expenses. Now, I'll talk about what those are in a few minutes. Okay, it's tax advantaged, meaning that there you can get some tax savings for using this particular mechanism. Okay, now the tax advantages you get also vary by state. So if I mention any particular tax advantage, do not assume that that's true of the state in which you live. These have to be looked at state by state. Okay. Next, I'm sorry. Let me. What the tax advantages are is that oftentimes the contributions you make to a 529 plan are tax deductible. Okay, so you're able to make contributions on a pre-tax basis. Okay, and reduce your overall tax payments while at the same time setting aside money for the person's education, and the earnings, i.e., the you invest the money, and those investments grow. So the earnings on the invested money also grow tax free. Okay, so it's kind of similar to a 401k. Okay, and typically a 529 plan will offer you kind of a menu of investment options that you can choose from. Okay, and they're sponsored by various different companies, Vanguard, Franklin Templeton. I'm sure there's others. I'm not here to recommend any particular company at all. I just mentioned those two because I happen to know, like my daughter's, hers is a Vanguard plan. That's not a recommendation for Vanguard. Nothing against them, nothing for them. I'm just saying that's who hers is with. And I received some information from Franklin Templeton on their plans. So I know they do them as well. Okay. Another aspect of a 529 plan is you can change the beneficiary. Okay, so let's say you've got 2 children, okay, and you set one up for each of them, okay, and then it turns out that one of your children decides that he doesn't want to go to college. He's more interested in working with his hands, and what he wants to do is be a mechanic for Mercedes-Benz, working on these very complex cars, and so he's not going to use the 529 plan funds. So you can change the beneficiary, and you could make somebody else the beneficiary of that money. I'm not sure you can have the same beneficiary on 2 529 plans. That would be something for you to check out, or combine 2 plans. Those are all nuances that you would want to check with the person who's advising you on the 529 plan. Okay, and there are also and then finally there are some gift tax benefits. So there's something called the lifetime exemption, which right now is, I believe, around somewhere between $12 and $13 million. Okay, so the money you contribute to a 529 plan does not reduce that lifetime exemption. Okay, so this is money that you can essentially give to somebody else without reducing how much you can give in other ways. Okay. All right. Let's move on. All right. So I'm going to go to this this website right here, smartasset.com, college savings plans, 529 plans by state. And here, let's go to share screen and share. Okay, so you should be seeing now this website. It's a smart asset. I found it looking around for something that would highlight. So here's 529 plans by state. And you can see this map here, okay? And the states coded in blue, you can see, have various numbers of types of plans. And by the way, Washington D.C. All have at least one plan. The darkest blue, which includes California, Utah, Wisconsin, etc. Okay, they sponsor one plan each. So I'm in California. Let's click on California. Okay, so it's called the Scholars Share Plan. And here you can click find an advisor. The minimum contribution is $25. The maximum $529,000. Okay, so that would pay for, well, I don't know if it's going to pay for medical school these days, but it will certainly pay for, an undergraduate degree. Okay, it gives you instructions on how to enroll, how much it costs to do it, the tax benefits for doing it, investment options, and how to withdraw money, etc. Okay, so and then these are other 529 plans. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so let's go back to the map. Okay, let's say you live in Florida. Okay, so there's Florida. So you can click on either the map or the link. And Florida has, it looks like, two types of plans. There's the Florida 529 Savings Plan and the Florida Prepaid Plan. Okay, and again, you have a link here. You can find an advisor. It has the different information. Okay, there's no minimum contribution. Maximum contribution is $418,000, so it's lower than California. Okay, here's some pros and cons. Investment portfolio with underlying funds that blah, blah, blah. High maximum contribution limit. Cons, moderately high fees. That's for the Florida 529 Savings Plan. The Florida Prepaid College Plan, okay? So it locks in tuition prices at today's rates. Plan options include dormitory expenses. Scholarships may qualify you for a refund, okay, of the money. Cons, benefits may not cover all necessarily educational expenses. The beneficiary, parent, or legal guardian must have been a Florida resident for the past 12 months, okay? So for whatever state you live in, okay, this map will give you information on various options. So let's look at one of these that have 4+ plans, Nevada. Okay, so Nevada's got 5 different plans, right? It's got the SSGA Up Promise 529 plan. Here's the Vanguard 529 College Savings Plan. Here's the USAA 529 College Savings Plan. The Nevada Prepaid Tuition Program, and the Putnam 529 Plan for America. Okay, these are all ones that are available that are available in Nevada. Minimum contribution $15, maximum $500,000. Okay, you can find an advisor, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so no matter where you live in the United States or the District of Columbia, okay, you can find you can find a plan. Okay, all right. So let's stop sharing and go back here. Okay, so now so whatever state you're in, generally speaking, you are going to be dealing with the laws in that particular state. However, there are what are called tax parity states. So Arizona, Arkansas, Kansas, Maine, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 tax parity states. Now, the advantage of a tax parity state is you can open a plan in another state and get the tax benefits of the plan in that state, in your tax parity state. Okay, so I guess it's good to live in, Arizona, et cetera, right? They offer you more flexibility in terms of how you can take advantage of a 529 plan. All right, so this is an exception to what I mentioned a few minutes ago. Tax advantages, varies by state, so they do. And for most of us who don't live in tax parity states, we're governed by whatever the rules are in our state. But for those of you living in these 9 states, you have, again, greater flexibility. Okay, moving on. So from an estate planning standpoint, what are the benefits then of a 529 plan? So first of all, it can reduce the size of your taxable estate. Okay, so once you transfer money into a 529 plan, that removes those funds from your taxable estate. Okay, now for most of us right now, we're we're below the limit at which our estate would be taxed, which, like I said, right now it's between $12 and $13 million. So you have to be among basically the 1% most wealthy people in the country to pay estate taxes. However, at the end of either this year or next, unless the federal government takes some steps to extend it, that lifetime exemption is going to decrease, and I think it's going back down to about $4 or $5 million. So that's going to subject a lot more people potentially to paying estate taxes. That being the case, if let's say you have, again, 2 children, and you set up a 529 plan for each of them, and you put, let's say, $200,000 in each one of those plans, and that's not an unusual amount to pay for college these days, at least at a private university. So the total of $400,000 now will be removed from the amount of your estate. So let's say your estate, I think the limit is going down to about $4 million. Let's just use that for example. So let's say that the value of your estate before you contribute money to the 529 plans is $4.5 million. That would subject $500,000 to taxation. If you create those two $200,000 529 plans, you've removed $400,000 from your taxable estate. And now with a $4 million exemption, you've only got $100,000 that's taxable. So you've significantly reduced the amount of estate taxes that you're going to pay, and in essence saved that money to pay for your children's college. Okay, so that's one of the great benefits of setting up a 529 plan. Another is flexibility. So you can change the beneficiaries to adapt to changes in what your family needs. So I talked about that before. Excuse me, it's it's cold here. I talked about this before, but so let's say that you have 2 children, and they go to college and they don't use all the benefits in one of the 529 plans. So then you could name one of their children, one of your grandchildren, as a beneficiary. So as things in your family change and the needs change, the 529 plans are flexible, and they allow you to kind of keep up with whatever your current circumstances are. Okay. And then finally, another benefit is you get asset protection. So once the funds are in the 529 plan, generally speaking, your creditors cannot go after that money to settle any debts that you have. Okay. Now, these kind of things are never absolute. Okay. So, and they can vary from state to state. So, and certainly if, they're done with the intent to defraud a creditor. So that can be, at best problematic. Okay. So again, I'm not giving you any accounting or legal advice. I'm just explaining to you one of the benefits that may be available to you if you properly set things up, for the state in which you live, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But these are things to discuss with your advisor to see if these are benefits that you can take advantage of. Okay. Now, an important note here is non-qualified expenses may be taxable. So if you use funds from a 529 plan, or if the beneficiary uses funds from a 529 plan for non-qualified expenses, then that, whatever that amount is, let's say they use $10,000, that could be sort of captured as a taxable income, and of course that defeats the purpose of the 529 plan. So let me give you an idea of what are called non-qualified expenses. I made a little list here, so that I would not forget them. So first of all, general living expenses. Things like transportation, which includes gas, car payments, public transportation, travel costs not directly related to education. So that would seem to imply that if your child has to, fly from where you live to where their college is at, that would be a qualified expense. But if they're going to, fly from where they're living to go visit relatives in another state, and then from there fly on to the university, now you've got some travel costs not directly related to education. And that could be problematic. Again, these are points to discuss with your accountant. Okay, room and board. So some room and board plans may not be covered, may not be qualified expenses in a 529 plan. So oftentimes cost of attendance that does cover room and board. So there are universities out there, for example, that at least their first year require students to live on campus. So then it may be that those room and board expenses are qualified. In other cases, room and board expenses may not be. So this is something to look into before you use money in that 529 plan to pay for it. Okay. Health insurance, generally speaking, is not considered a qualified expense. Okay. So, all these rules about health insurance, while the 529 plan is a great plan, when it comes to health insurance, you would think, well, you got to cover your child, your child needs health insurance even while he or she is in college. Okay, probably not deductible. Okay, extracurricular activities, club fees, sports dues, gym memberships, entertainment, also are non-qualified expenses. Okay, and then personal expenses like clothing, food outside of a meal plan, and entertainment unrelated to the education. These, again, are non-qualified expenses. Now, each plan needs to be looked at specifically to see what are considered qualified and non-qualified expenses. I'm just giving you some ideas to check out. Okay. Now, some K through 12 expenses, some plans allow up to $10,000 a year for K through 12 tuition, okay? But that depends on your plan's rules. So if you recall, I mentioned at the beginning, I call this, paying for college, okay? In some cases, you may be able to pay for private primary and secondary schooling. Okay, but there are limits and they need to be checked out before you make those. Okay, apprenticeship program costs. So only registered and certified programs qualify, and there may be limitations on how much of the 529 plan's funds can be used. So something to check into. So you recall I mentioned becoming a Mercedes-Benz mechanic. Okay, I've never checked into this, but maybe you could use 529 plans funds to pay for that. I don't know, but it would at least be worth checking out, depending on the state that you're in, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now if you do use 529 plan funds for non-qualified expenses, not only will you have to pay income taxes on the earnings portion that's withdrawn, but also a 10% penalty. Okay, so in that respect, it's also similar to other retirement plans where, like, if you withdraw funds early, you pay a penalty in addition to whatever taxes are due. Okay, so those are some ideas about, again, qualified, non-qualified expenses. So what's qualified? Well, college tuition, generally speaking, room and board with the exceptions that I mentioned. There could be some fees related, like lab fees, those kind of things. Those may be included. Books may be included. All of this needs to be looked at. You need to look at the specific plan. And by the way, I'm going to put this link that I mentioned, this link right here about Smart Asset. I'm going to put this link into the show notes, so you'll be able to access that database that I showed you a few minutes ago, and you can look at the plans available in the state in which you live, and see, and then start looking into the specifics. Okay, and that's I wonder why they're 6 of 7. Yeah. Okay, so that's what I've got for you today. Here's some places where you can go to get help. And these also will be listed in the show notes. If you've got a general question, feel free to post it in social media, because that way others can benefit from the answer. If you have a private question, then please don't post it on social media, but feel free to send an email to this right here, and I'll be happy to, if I can, answer the question, or if not, refer you to somebody who can. Okay, and then we have the legal stuff, which we always do. And let's go ahead and close this out. Okay, well, so thank you very much for joining me this morning. I hope you found this useful. Again, it's a great estate planning tool, something that's well worth your time looking into, finding somebody who can advise you about the specifics of your state. I've stayed very general because I have viewers not only across the country but also outside of the United States. So do look into it and see if it's a tool that will improve the quality of your estate plan. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time is my show, Business Lessons from the Military. And we're going to be talking about how to organize your business the Navy way. We're talking about what's called OpNav and end shops and all that kind of stuff. I think you will find it quite useful. And then on Wednesday at 10 a.m., I'm going to show you how to start an entity for a business. We're going to look at 3. We're going to look at a sole proprietorship, an LLC, and a corporation. I'm going to go step by step on the things that you need to do in order to set up those 3 types of entities. So please do join me for the rest of this week. And then, of course, a week from today, we'll be back with the next edition, the next episode of Trust and Estate Weekly. I know I have a guest, can't remember who it is, but I think you'll enjoy that person as well. So wishing you a wonderful rest of the day. And thank you again for watching. Signing off as I always do. Marie, you're my bell.